there had been this huge influx of herons in and around Chicago, sort of during the same time, or over the span of several years, really since like 2016-ish.
Okay, hey, Tobias, now I got to go on for a break for a minute and a half.
Oh.
So I'm going to put you. I'm not hanging up. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll come back, and then we're going to talk about that, because I do think some people are confusing that bird with something prehistoric.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to go for a break for a minute and a half. We'll be right back.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on Night Dreams Talk Radio? You could be a guest. Email us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, hi, everybody. This is Gary at Night Dreams Talk Radio. Our guest tonight, Tobias Wayland. We're talking about cryptids, Mothman, things like that, Bigfoot, anything as creepy, big, huge birds that, it should have died off a million years ago. Are you still there?
I sure am, Gary.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, guys, cranes and stuff like that, I would think some people could get really confused, especially in low light.
Oh, sure. And that's definitely been part of this. And I'll say that I think the biggest difference between reported sightings that I suspect could be misidentified birds and the really unexplained, potentially paranormal sightings is the level of detail. Now, those misidentified bird sightings, they usually are very low detail. The witness doesn't get a real good look at it. They're not very close to it, and they don't see it for very long. Lighting conditions are not great. It's usually dark out or dusk, and they just aren't able to get a good level of detail. But it's weird enough to them that they go online and they try to see if anybody else is also seeing something, weird flying around their area. And so, they see these other reports, some of which are similar to their own, potentially, misidentified birds. And then they see like the really, really weird ones. And they think, oh, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. But what a lot of people don't know is that the number of herons roosting in and around like the Chicago area and really around Lake Michigan in general, due to things like climate change, which I know we've talked about, have grown, by a pretty wide margin over the last few years. There was something like between, I want to say 2009 and 2016, the number of mated pairs of black-crowned night herons roosting in Lincoln Park in Chicago jumped from 24 to 300 or something, just a huge jump. So, with some of these low detail sightings, where people just see something real quick flying past that's huge, and they don't know what to make of it. Now, those people are really seeing something weird. They're seeing something outside of their experience, because people in that area were not necessarily used to seeing these huge herons, flying overhead. Yeah, because, the difference between 24 and 300, when you're talking about, now night herons, I think, have a wingspan of, I think, maybe 2 or 3 feet, 4 feet or so, not nearly as big as, say, a great blue heron or something, but that's still plenty big if you see it in flight. And when you talk about these people reporting these sightings, like I said, they really are experiencing something anomalous to them, in that, they probably weren't used to seeing these large birds in their particular urban environment. And so that doesn't explain every sighting. And believe me, for everybody out there listening, I'm not trying to dismiss all of these Mothman sightings I've been investigating as misidentified birds. They are not all misidentified birds. Some of them are something very, very, very strange that, by all appearances, is a flying humanoid. But some of them likely are misidentified birds.
Well, a couple of things is going on. The magnetic field is changing, so that really confuses birds, and then you also got the climate is changing. So I think people are starting to see things in their area they haven't ever seen before. And I think that, if you haven't seen, some of these type of birds, it's enough to alarm you, because you're not familiar with what type of bird they are if you don't see them, let's face it. Right. But things like Mothman, and what other weird reports of cryptids are you getting?
Well, actually, we've had a couple of really interesting sort of one-off ones. So there was one that was pretty recent, actually, that we received that was pretty local. So there was this woman in it was Beloit, Wisconsin, and so she had described, and this was a new one to me, by the way. She had described basically this chimeric creature, like it was this amalgamation of several different animals. So basically, her story was. Oh, and I should mention this report initially came to us from our friend Adam Benedict with the Pine Barrens Institute. He's a local guy, runs a website focused on cryptids. Fantastic source about cryptids. But he had received this report from this lady, and so he doesn't do a lot of hands-on investigating himself. He's more of a researcher. So he reached out to us and said, "Hey, do you want to talk to this lady about her sighting?" And naturally, I said, "Of course I do." So anyway, I got a hold of her, and she told me that back in the spring of 2013, just outside of Beloit, Wisconsin, she and her husband had just turned off this road that goes out of town. And this isn't, like a super developed area. This is sort of a smaller area outside of the Beloit city proper. And so they're driving past these fields. There's just like cornfields out there. And so they're driving past it, and they see this weird animal out by the tree line. And honestly, anybody who goes on our website and looks this article up, of course, we got out there and got video and photographs and everything of that area. So if you want any better reference for it, that's the place to find it. But anyway, so they see this weird animal out by the tree line, and her husband, who was driving, he decides to slow down so they can get a better look at it, because it's this huge animal, and they see it standing on its back legs out by these trees. She said that it was barrel-shaped, and at first they were wondering if maybe it was a bear, which, for people who aren't too familiar with the ecology of, bears in Wisconsin, we do have black bears. They're almost exclusively found, in northern Wisconsin. But every once in a while, you might get one ranging, this far south. Like, it's not unheard of. Anyway, so at first they were wondering, maybe it's a bear. They saw it drop to all fours, and it started moving. And, it's coming towards them. And so they're talking about it with each other, trying to decide if what they're looking at is a bear, or, maybe a wild boar. I mean, we only have those around here, but you never know. Or maybe even a really weird dog. So, they keep watching this thing, and it keeps walking closer to where they are. And at this point, they had already driven past it, turned around, and turned around again, and then went up and parked, actually. And so at this point, actually, the witness's own words are probably better than anything I can come up with to describe this. So let me just tell you what she told me. She said, up until this point, I objectively believed my husband and I and the people in the car behind us saw a strange animal in the field. The rest of the story is my subjective experience. The animal was coming towards us. It moved like a cat, graceful with a long, slicky tail. It didn't look like a cat, though, except for the head. It was dark, but not black, brindled, dark browns with some black. So if you can picture like a German Shepherd, like that kind of coloration. The fur was short like a dog with some glossiness to it. Its head was massive and triangle-shaped. The eyes were large and green. The head looked so robust, like you could hit it with a bat and it would break the bat. The head was flat like a cat's, no snout like a dog or bear. Its chest was also triangle-shaped and really muscular, with legs that came down like a bulldog. The back end was a smaller triangle with legs that came off like a German Shepherd. And, she also described the thing as just really emphasizing that it's huge. It looked like it was made of solid muscle. And it had this weird long tail that was about the same length as its body. As far as the height estimate, so at this point, the thing's on all fours, and she estimated that the top of its head was maybe 4 feet tall. So like from the ground to the top of its head is maybe 4 feet.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. And so sort of the first thing that came to mind to me was, okay, maybe a mountain lion, because again, they're not real common this far south. And according to the DNR here, we don't have any breeding population of mountain lions, but we get them ranging in here all the time to Minnesota, because they'll go through the Dakotas, and they'll range in through Minnesota and down through northern Wisconsin. So they're relatively common here, frankly. But of course, I asked her specifically that just to see what she said. But she'd seen mountain lions before, and it was something that had occurred to her, and